Salam everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving into an explainer of a really popular animated tale featuring Bablu, his buddies Ghulam Rasool and Farman, and a brand new fish aquarium. Now on the surface, it looks like just a colorful, fun story about a kid getting some new pets. But man, as we peel back the layers and really look at the source material, it actually delivers this profoundly deep, real-world lesson about duty, empathy, and the absolute heavy responsibility that comes with bringing a pet into your home. So we're going to break down exactly where things went sideways for Bablu and what we can all learn from it.
Right off the bat, we got to talk about this hilarious, but honestly kind of terrifying perspective from the very beginning of the story. When Bablu first gets his new fancy fishes, he actually jokes with them, saying he's going to fry them up and eat them because they're full of protein and vitamins. Now, Bablu's obviously just messing around, but the fish, they don't know that. From their perspective, they are literally screaming, "I'm going to be fried! Save me! Put me back in the water!" It perfectly highlights his massive disconnect between how we as humans often view pets as just, entertainment, versus the highly vulnerable, life-or-death reality the animals are actually experiencing.
All right, let's get into Section 1. Great intentions, dangerous mistakes, when excitement just isn't enough. So Bablu was absolutely over the moon to get these pets. He got the permission, bought the tank, brought them home. He genuinely wanted to take great care of them, but, and here's the kicker, the source material shows us that good intentions alone absolutely do not keep animals safe. Just look at this setup. On the left side, he did everything right. He bought a massive tank so they had room to swim, he installed a filter and an air pipe. He remembered to feed them. Sounds like a great home, right? But then, look at the fatal mistakes on the right. He fed them the wrong kind of food, which caused this bizarre energy spike and made them super sick. And, even worse, when it was time for bed, he just turned off the lights, the filter, and the air pipe. He basically treated the aquarium's life support system like a TV you just click off at night. Yikes.
And this leads to a crazy breaking point in the story. Because of these blunders, the fish are barely hanging on. But how does Bablu read the room? He looks at the tank and actually assumes the fish are just being boring and dramatic. He literally tells his friends they're just acting dead. He completely, 100% misses the actual danger staring him right in the face. So the big takeaway here is that when we don't truly understand an animal's needs, we can easily misinterpret their suffering as just bad behavior. Bablu's ignorance created this massive blind spot.
Moving on to Section 2, the fish's perspective, a struggle for survival.
To really grasp the weight of this situation, we have to do exactly what the cartoon does so brilliantly. Flip the script and shift our empathy directly to the animals. Let's look at what it was actually like inside that tank while Bablu was completely oblivious on the outside. Inside, total nightmare. The second Bablu turns off that filter and oxygen for the night, the environment instantly tanks. The fish, Neely and Peely, start panicking. One of them cries out, "This water is getting dirty, the filter is there but it's not on. This kid will kill us for sure." They realize they are trapped in a tiny box that is rapidly becoming unlivable. They rely completely on their owner, and their owner just shut off their oxygen. Seeing their fear really drives home what negligence actually feels like to the one experiencing it.
So you gotta wonder, are the fish just being dramatic like Bablu thinks, or are they actually suffocating? Thankfully, his buddies, Ghulam Rasool and Farman, show up just in time. They take one look and immediately recognize the crisis. They have to point out to a totally clueless Bablu that the fish are absolutely not acting. They are genuinely struggling to breathe. Without his friend stepping in, Bablu's lack of knowledge would have been totally fatal. They urgently tell him to get the fish into clean water to save their lives. And honestly, this rescue totally shifts the tone of the whole explainer, taking it from a simple boy makes a mistake plot into some much deeper cultural and religious territory.
Let's shift gears to Section 3, Islamic teachings on pets, a divine responsibility.
What's really fascinating here is how the source material spends a good chunk of time rooting proper animal care directly in Islamic teachings. It makes it crystal clear that having a pet isn't just some casual hobby, it's a strict, divine duty with serious spiritual weight. To set this up, the characters actually play a quick trivia game to share some historical context about fish. It's a great way to show how respected these creatures are in the tradition. They drop 3 cool facts. First, that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, ate fish. Second, the famous story of Prophet Yunus, peace be upon him, who was kept safe inside the belly of a giant fish. And third, the historical rule for the Bani Israel, who were specifically forbidden from hunting fish on Saturdays. This little game perfectly sets the stage for a much broader discussion.
During that same game, Farman shares this super interesting religious ruling about the halal catch. He explains that unlike land animals, which require a very specific, formal method of Islamic slaughter, known as zabiha, to be considered permissible or halal to eat, fish are an exception. Fish that die naturally after being taken out of the water are already considered halal without that whole formal process. It's a really neat detail that underscores how fish hold a very unique and special status within Islamic dietary law.
But the absolute emotional core of this entire story is captured right here in this powerful quote. When Bablu finally realizes the scale of his mistake, his friends remind him of a hadith, a saying of the final prophet, peace be upon him, which says, "Fear Allah regarding these voiceless animals." Just sit with that for a second. It is gentle, but man, it is commanding. The source material uses this to stress that taking care of a pet is not just a favor you're doing for a cute animal, it is a strict mandate. You are holding a life in your hands, and you are spiritually accountable for it.
And that feeds perfectly into this next incredibly heavy statement. Oppressing animals is actually worse than oppressing humans. Now, why on earth would they say that? Well, think about it. As the story points out, animals are completely voiceless. If you wrong a human, they can speak up, they can complain, demand their rights, or even forgive you. But a pet, they're entirely dependent on you. They can't tell you they're starving or that their water is toxic, or that they literally can't breathe. Because of that extreme vulnerability, our accountability as pet owners is infinitely higher. Neglecting them is a severe form of oppression. Okay, let's pivot to the practical takeaways, because knowing the responsibility is only step one. Knowing what to actually do is step two.
All right, Section 4, Essential Aquarium Rules. How to care for aquatic life properly.
So, after the fish are finally saved, Ghulam Rasool makes absolutely sure Bablu knows the drill. He lays out these specific, non-negotiable steps. Step 1. Ensure a large enough tank so the fish actually have space to swim. Step 2. Provide the correct food in the right amounts so you don't make them sick like Bablu did. Step 3. Keep that water clean constantly. And step 4, arguably the most important one that caused all this drama to begin with, leave the oxygen pump and filter on. It is a life support machine, guys, not an optional accessory. Which brings us to what is easily the most crucial piece of advice in the whole story. If you fear you will be negligent, it is way better to just not keep pets at all. The characters really hammer home that getting a pet is a choice. You don't have to own a fish or a cat or a bird. But the second you make that choice to bring them home, caring for them becomes a mandatory obligation. If you know you're forgetful or you just don't have the time to research what they need, the most ethical thing you can do is just admire them from afar and not bring them home. To wrap up the moral of the story, they leave us with a really serious spiritual warning. The characters remind Bablu that voiceless animals can curse those who oppress them, and their prayers are answered. That is heavy. Even though they can't speak our language, their suffering is recognized, and their silent pleas are heard. It's the ultimate reminder to treat literally every living creature with the utmost compassion. So, we arrive at our final thought. After seeing Bablu's near-fatal blunders, looking at the terrifying perspective of the fish, and understanding the massive divine duty required to care for voiceless creatures, I want to leave you with this question. Knowing all of this, are you truly ready for the responsibility of a pet? Caring for an animal is a beautiful thing, absolutely, but it demands your time, your knowledge, and your unwavering commitment. Take a real moment to reflect on your own readiness before bringing a voiceless creature into your life. Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.